population, they do things like that. In spite of all of that, if we would wall these people off and not have dialogue, trade is our one way to interact with those nations. The fact is, China is moving forward, as Cuba is in a different way, but they're introducing capitalism in that country. So the worst thing that we could do to the people of China would be to stop trading with them, because that's our opportunity to have an influence. And as Tammy said, that's the way that we can continue through economic pressures to continue to have some influence in this world. I'm so concerned about we need to make sure that NAFTA and CAFTA, when I think about kids serving and doing labor for pennies on the dollar, believe me or not, those children, every one of them, is just as important as my two sons. And that's the way I'm going to treat all of them.
Just for a moment, I want to point out on China, several years ago, with predominantly Republican support, we gave China our most favored nation trading status. Prior to that, trading with China was reviewable at frequent intervals before the Congress of the United States. We gave up our leverage. I do agree with the point that the trade negotiations are a way to engage, but we need to say resoundingly that trading with the United States has some conditions, and that is human rights and environmental protection.
Okay, now we have the last question, and that goes first to Mr. Magna. Should the U.S. sign the Kyoto Protocol?
President Clinton refused to sign Kyoto because of his concern that it did not put pressure on emerging capitalist societies. Again, he's mentioned China, India. India is growing so quickly, and it's wonderful to see that we're seeing some renewed relations now with India and Pakistan, in spite of their long-standing struggles over Kashmir. But we need to continue to see again this progress in rebuilding the United Nations, so that it can ultimately be the body that there is not this pressure on the United States to always be the first one to come in and bear an undue burden. The United States, people sometimes say that they feel uncomfortable about the fact that we are the world leader. And I feel very proud of that, because the United States really is the United Nations when you look at the fact that every religious and ethnic persuasion that has ever graced this earth, that's what the United States is comprised of. There are people in every corner of this world that have relatives and family here in the United States, and they're making sure, whether it's through peaceful demonstrations or whatever it is, that their voice is heard. And that's why this giant mosaic that the United States is, there's never been a nation more qualified to serve that role. And I will never lose hope that we can get to a point that we don't have to threaten nations with nuclear calamity. And I want to take that hope to Congress. I will never give up on that optimism. I will never become so cynical and jaded that I will call somebody that I employed as my chief of staff somebody that's just a PR hack. We've got to get beyond that. We've got to get beyond that.
Ms. Baldwin.
Thank you. My personal opinion is that we should sign the Kyoto Protocol, but I do want to harken back again to my earlier statement that I don't think it could pass both houses of Congress, or actually the Senate, which is where it's relevant.